Welcome to Fireside Nets, the number one podcast for all Brooklyn Nets news, information, reactions, opinions, game breakdowns, and so much more. I am your host, Spen Harris, a.k.a. Spenny and the Nets, a.k.a. Headband Harris, and I am joined, as
I've never
always,
heard anyone call you any of those nicknames.
by my occasional co-host and brother of the podcast, Nick Shanman. We got a lot to talk about today, Nick, but before we do this,
You said I'm joined as always by my occasional.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
we can keep going.
let's keep going. All right. So before we get into everything Nets news and just a lot to discuss today, this podcast is unofficially brought to you by Bud Light. You ready, Nick?
Bud Light, the best a man can get.
The only beer that was in my fridge. Cheers. Cheers to this season.
I actually feel like there's a really good marketing campaign around that. The only beer that's in my fridge, Bud Light. I like that line. I've never heard that in a line.
I mean, it wasn't a lie. It was like that is the only beer that's technically in my fridge.
I know. I love just a line. I love that line. I feel like that would be in a commercial, like a Super Bowl commercial, like Bud Light, the only beer that's in your fridge.
I like it. Nick, we got to get into it. This is the afternoon after probably the most embarrassing loss of the year by the Brooklyn Nets, 106-102 at home to the woeful Memphis Grizzlies. Nick, no Ja Morant. He's out for the year. No Jaren Jackson Jr. in this game. No Marcus Smart. He's out for the year. The Grizzlies have been horrible this year. They are 21-41, 14-17 on the road. Yet they pretty much had it wasn't wire to wire because I know the Nets took the lead at certain points in the game, but Memphis dominated the majority of this game. They out-rebounded the Nets. They out-hustled the Nets. It was just a putrid effort by Brooklyn, and I think the most humiliating defeat of the season. We'll get into the stats and we'll get into the numbers in a second, but what were your overall takeaways from this devastating loss at home?
If you said to me, name every active player on the Grizzlies, I would have said Aldama and Vince Williams Jr. I forgot Luke Kennard was on the team. I forgot Jake LaRavia was on the team, but I do not know who Trey Jameson. I've heard of Conchar. I do not know who Trey Jameson, G.G. Jackson II, Lamar Stevens, or Matthew Hurt are. So I'm looking at such a depleted Grizzlies roster, and I feel like I know most bench players, most rookies in the league, most undrafted guys even who are on an active roster. This is a team of literal nobodies, and it's not only embarrassing to lose to that team, it's embarrassing to look at that roster and not be able to name players on the team that somehow out-rebounded, outscored, and outplayed this Brooklyn Nets team that, listen, I've shit on the team all season, is somewhat in a play-in contention position. So it's humiliating, especially coming off of, last 5 games we've been 3-2, especially coming off 2 good wins. So it sucks to see, but could I say I'm shocked? No, this Nets team is the team that would lose to probably the worst the Memphis Grizzlies have been in 20 years. And we also don't have Cam Thomas, which shouldn't be an excuse when you have guys like Bridges, Cam Johnson, Dennis Schroeder, who are key players on great teams in the past. So I get ahead of myself as Bud Light's kicking in too early, but it was very disappointing to see.
You know who's probably happy about this loss? Jacques Vaughn is somewhere watching this game being like, hey, different coach, same motherfucking result, right? And I don't want to crap on Kevin Ollie. It's not his fault that they lost this game. At the end of the day, you have to put the onus on the players. Mikal Bridges, who had a really good 2 games against Atlanta. That second game, I think he had 36. We'll get into that in a little bit. 14 points, 4 of 14 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3. Now, granted, he hurt his hand in the second or third quarter. He drove to the rim, or there was a loose ball, and he got his hand tangled up with Clax and another guy on the Grizzlies. And he was in obvious pain. And I get that he's the Iron Man. I get that, he never misses a game. But if he's hurt, and by the way, he was after that, he's like could not score. He barely did anything for the rest of the game. He had a few buckets in the fourth, but one was a garbage time 3. The other, he got fouled shooting a 3. I would have liked to see them pull him if he was actually hurt and play a guy like Trendon Watford, who's chilling on the bench, get somebody else in there. You had Bates Diop. Obviously, Bates Diop and Watford are not close to the players that Mikal Bridges is, but you could have played Lonnie Walker more than 14 minutes. You could have played Jalen Wilson more than 12 minutes. I understand he's a tough SOB, Mikal Bridges, but if he was actually hurting and it was fucking with his game, I would have liked to see him come out. Any thoughts on that?
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, dude. At the end of the day, Luke, I am your father, Kennard, was the highest scorer in this Grizzlies-Nets game with 25 points, 8 for 11 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3. How are we letting Luke Kennard outscore every person on our team? How are we letting Luke Kennard beat the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn? Okay, I like Luke Kennard. He's from Duke, right? Duke player.
Yeah, correct.
Good shooter. Yeah, okay. He was a nice 8th guy on the Clippers when he came in and hit a perimeter 3 so Kawhi Leonard could rest for another 7 games. Thanks for your service, Kennard. Now you're putting him in a big minutes position on the Memphis Grizzlies, and he's shooting upwards of 75% against us? 6 for 9 from 3? That is pathetic to lose to Luke, I am your daddy, Kennard, because that's probably what he thought after beating us single-handedly. I'm looking at the box office. I'm looking at the box score, and I'm just like blown away at how you see a team on paper like the Nets, who are no way are we calling them a high-end playoff contention team. But you're looking at a team on paper that has talent. And then you're looking at the Grizzlies. That is, hey, all of our guys are injured. Pick up Tony Shalhoub off the G League 49ers to come get 10 minutes, and somehow he still outscores our bench players. So, listen, you can get ticky-tacky with Kevin Ali and his rotation and his minutes. No matter what the rotation was, no matter who was on the court, our depth should have taken a big stinky poo-poo on the Grizzlies' depth because the Grizzlies have no depth. They are playing on reserves who should be reserves on G League teams.
Here's what's crazy, right? And by the way, that was a Shakespearean just fucking.
Did you like Luke? Right, I am your father, Kennard.
You said poopy a few times there. That was great. Here's what you got to know: 6 Memphis Grizzlies scored in double figures. Gigi Jackson, who's arguably their player with the most upside, only had 7 points. Matthew Hurt only had 5 points. They only played 9 guys, but out of the 9 guys, 9 guys, 6 of them scored in double figures. Only 5 guys for the Nets scored in double figures, right? That you can't be getting outscored by a bunch of guys that are going to be out of the NBA in a few years. I'm sorry. I don't know if this Jemison guy is going to have a job next year. I don't know if Jake LaRavia is going to be a real NBA player. But for one night, Nick, Jake LaRavia outplayed Dennis Schroeder for one night. He did. 14 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. He outplayed Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder had 13 points and 13 points and 9 assists. Friggin', Cam Johnson kind of kept up his nice streak, but he had a rough shooting night. 6 of 15 from the field, 3 of 10 from 3, 18 points. He was the second leading scorer after Clax with 21. The stats don't matter in a game like this, Nick. This was the Memphis hustle that we were playing, and we got embarrassed.
But let's not – I mean, the biggest stat to me is 17 from 30 from the free throw line.
Oh, yeah, that was disgusting. Oh, my God.
This is a professional basketball team. Now, I go usually, 50 to 60% from the free throw line in my men's league games, playing once every week or two, never practicing a free throw. Because when you have a decent basketball mind, you have the structure and form of a decent shot, you're going to hit free throws at least 50% of the time. When you are in the NBA, you are considered a bad free throw shooter if you were under 70%, right? Would you agree with that? I'd say like above 80, you're a very good free throw shooter. 70 to 80, you're in that solid range, and below
Mm-hmm.
70, not good, and obviously below 50, you're fucking trash. Now, you're looking at a Nets team that shot 17 for 30 from the free throw line. That is 56.7%. That is 13 points left
Yep.
on into the abyss when we lost by 4. And then you look at the Memphis Grizzlies, 18 for 22 from the free throw line, 82%. So we took 8 more free throws than the Grizzlies and made 1 less free throw than the Grizzlies.
And that's at home. Think about that. So think about it like this. Conchar, 4 of 4 from the line. Luke Kennard, 3 of 3 from the line. Vince Williams Jr., 2 of 2 from the line. Gigi Jackson, 2 of 2 from the line. LaRavia, 6 of 8 from the line, okay? That's on the road. These are guys at home for the Brooklyn Nets. Mikal Bridges, 4 out of 9 from the line. Like I said, if your wrist is hurting, don't play because that's abysmal. Day'Ron Sharpe, 2 of 4. Nick Claxton, 5 of 8. He actually hit 2 free throws down the stretch, but he also had a technical foul that was a stupid move. I think he gets 1 technical a game. I love Claxton, but at some point, he's got to chill. He's got to just modify his behavior slightly to avoid those technicals. Cam Johnson, 3 of 4. Dennis Schroeder, 1 of 3. The only guy who was perfect from the line for the Nets was Jalen Wilson. He was 2 of 2. You can't have that happen at home. It's unacceptable.
It just seems like we never are able to do the little things right. You know what I mean? Like it's always the missed free throw. It's always the inbound at the end of the game. It's always something tiny that obviously ends up having a gargantuan effect when you're not doing it right. But it always seems like if you look at why we lost, what it came down to, obviously there's a bigger picture of just getting outplayed, but it's the missed free throws, the getting out rebound, the more turnovers. It's always something that we're slightly off on. We never seem to be able to kind of pull everything together and make a complete dish in terms of cooking, right? Like we're missing that one good side. We're missing like the one vegetable wasn't cooked all the way through. And sometimes we put out an amazing protein. Like we're putting out that chicken parm with some baka sauce. We're going that dirty marg slice. You know what I'm saying? But we're always
Love a dirty marg.
slightly off, right? Maybe it's under seasoned. Maybe you gave me like a flat Diet Coke. And I just think if you're not doing those little things and you're looking at teams in this league that are, right? You're looking at the Boston Celtics, who might be the best the Boston Celtics have been since 2008. I mean, you might even argue they're better right now than they were in 2008 when they won the ship. They're not messing up those little things. Not only are they coming to play every day, they're hitting their free throws. They're not getting out rebounded. They're not getting out defended. So it's so many little things that we need to work on. But to really be screwing up things like free throws, that's sad. That is a wake-up call. That needs to be addressed. If I'm Coach Ali, I'm going back to practice. No one's leaving practice until you make 2 free throws in a row or you're running a suicide. That's what my coach used to do. We're tired at the end of practice. Nick, boom, hit 2 free throws or we keep running. Boom. Johnny, hit 2 free throws or we keep running. Close it out right.
Yeah, I hate to give credit to those idiots on the other side of the river, but I don't know if you saw that Knicks Cavs game the other night. Jalen Brunson goes down in the first minute of play. And it's next man up mentality. The Knicks handled business in Cleveland with Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart leading the way. That is professionalism. That is having pride in what you put out there on the court. I don't credit Tom Thibodeau with that. I credit the Knicks, who are ready to step up and play the game. Okay? This is a game that the Nets probably thought was an easy win, right? Coming off 2 big wins in Atlanta. You have another game in Philadelphia that they're going to play tonight. They probably had this circled as an easy win. And that's just not how it works when you're not super talented. Guess what, Nick? When we had Kyrie and we had Kevin Durant, we can sit back and let them drop 60 combined and get away with the rest of the team scoring 40 and win a game 100-90 against the Grizzlies. We don't have those guys, right? We have to work for our offense. Everyone on this team has to work. And it just felt like, I don't know if it was the effort. I don't know if it was the connectiveness, but it wasn't there. Some additional notes. I would have liked to see Lonnie Walker play a little bit more. He's your second best scorer. I think after Mikal Bridges, I think he's a better scorer than Cam Johnson. I just don't think he gets enough run. And I know he's still kind of, I don't know if he's still on a minutes restriction, but I want him to be that sixth man. He should be at least playing 20 minutes in a game like this. Probably saving him for tonight because they have a back-to-back, but I want to see him play more. And then Jalen Wilson is a guy, you know, he's young, he's given a chance, or he's getting a chance now with sort of this Kevin Ollie led Nets team. I'd like to see, and then I'd like to see him get more run. And then Trendon Watford, I don't understand. Every time Watford's in there, he produces for this team. He gets to the basket. He makes the little hustle plays. He's not the best three-point shooter in the world, but you didn't need three-point shooting in that game. You needed a guy who can make the hustle plays. You needed like a Marcus Smart Jr. And Dennis Smith was great when he was out there. He had a steal. He had a dunk. He had a few plays. I would have liked to see Trendon Watford play a little bit. But I digress. Did you see the clip that I sent you?
I did, of the fist bump, and I read a lot of the comments too. Do you want to explain it?
Yeah, so shout out to @JerrySideNets. He posted a clip of Kevin Ollie engaging with the team in, I believe it was against the Grizzlies, and it just seemed like Mikal wasn't really in a huddle during a timeout. He puts his hand in to be like, let's go. Mikal Bridges kind of walks away. Cam Johnson was the only one who really put his hand in, and it was just a weird clip. It kind of seemed like the Nets were checked out at that point. I don't know what time of the game this was. But that's really the clip in a nutshell. Kevin Ollie says, come on, guys, let's go. He puts his hand in. Mikal walks away, and none of the other players really put their hands in.
I mean, so it looks bad. It looks like Mikal Bridges looked at the hands in and intentionally decided not to put his mouthpiece in, get up, and walk away. Now, I did read some comments. Some people think that fist bump was only intended for Cam Johnson, but I think from the naked eye, common sense wise, it does look like Kevin Ollie is saying hands in, and maybe the other people didn't notice it, but it looks like Mikal Bridges saw the hands in and just didn't want to be involved, which is really disheartening because I really like Mikal Bridges. I like him on this team. I think he's a great player. You hear all those rumors about him wanting to play with his Villanova guys across the bridge, like Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart. And it sucks to see because that only makes me feel a little bit like maybe Bridges doesn't want to be in Brooklyn right now. And I don't think there's anything worse as a fan than to have, and Nets fans have experienced probably more than any other fan in the world, to have amazing players come to your city only to realize a season or two later they don't want to be there. So I don't want to look too much into this, but it's hard not to see that and think, was that intentional? Is Mikal Bridges avoiding a fist bump? Is this team disconnected right now? Is this team lacking that heart that we need to make that play and push? So not the best, but I'll leave that up to interpretation for whoever sees it on Twitter. Check out the video and let us know what you think.
Yeah. I don't know. Look, everyone's got to be frustrated when you're losing, but the weird part about this game, Nick, is you were coming off 2 huge wins against the Hawks that sort of kept your season, your playoff, or I guess your chances at the play-in. It kept you on life support, those 2 wins against Atlanta. And then with a loss like Memphis, I mean, I tweeted it after the game, and shout out to John Hollinger. He tweeted it today. Great minds think alike. You lose a game like that at home to the Memphis Grizzlies, you don't deserve any shot at the playoffs. But the Nets are still on the table.
2.5 games back right now, right?
The 2.5 games back. Yes,
Hawks are 26-34. Nets are 24-37.
The Nets have called for reinforcements in their game against Philadelphia tonight. They have Noah Clowney has been called up, so he'll be on the active roster tonight. The young power forward, the rookie who's spent most of his season in the G League, so might see Noah Clowney get some minutes tonight. Philly's banged up. Philly has no Embiid or Maxey, so this is going to be a toilet bowl game between the Nets and the Sixers.
But it's winnable. It's a winnable game. Well, I don't want to see anybody injured, but it's nice to know that like there is a chance we could stay in this game.
Yeah, it's definitely a winnable game.
I'm looking up the spread.
Can I take a guess?
Yeah, guess on the spread tonight, Tuesday, March 5th, Sixers Nets.
All right. So wait, it's at home. I'm gonna say Nets plus 3.5.
That was pretty close. I bet some books is. Right now, Sportsbook Wire on USA Today says minus 2.5 Sixers, so Nets plus 2.5. You're 1 point off.
Okay. Ian Cart writes, is Maxey out? Is he? Ian, that's what I was seeing on Twitter. I've been seeing that Maxey is out. So if you want to double check that on the internet, I'm sure it's out there.
Yes. Yeah. Confirmed
Yeah.
by ESPN 3 hours ago. Maxey is out undergoing evaluation for a concussion. And I got to say, man, Maxey is a freaking beast. 26 points a game. 26 points a game, 45%, and 6 assists a game. This dude is not missing Harden. I think he's taken all his minutes and his time.
So someone wrote to me on Twitter. Shout out to Dan Lee. He had wrote to me and he said, like, I want to read his exact tweet. Imagine in an alternative universe, KD, Kyrie, Tyrese Maxey, and Claxton. Because if you recall, when the Nets were in discussion to trade Harden to the Sixers, a lot of Nets fans thought that Morey might give us Maxey. I never thought that Morey was going to give us anyone that was kind of valuable to him, which was why he was okay parting with Ben Simmons. And I don't think that Daryl Morey was ever going to get played by Sean Marks, because Tyrese Maxey was Morey's insurance policy if Harden didn't work out. Look what happened.
I mean, the dude's 23, and look at the numbers he puts up. You're not giving that talent away.
That's what I'm saying. So Harden asks out of Philly. The drop-off isn't that much because Maxey's so fucking good. So that alternative universe, I mean, it would have never existed. Morey was never going to get played by Sean Marks.
And Ian just asked, so we might have some sort of chance to win then. I mean, yeah, we obviously have a much better chance without Maxey and Embiid being on the court. That's without saying. But we lost to the Grizzlies. So there is a chance, to quote Dumb and Dumber, Spen.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I think, sadly, my confidence is dwindling in positions like this where we need a win to stay somewhat in that playoff game contention. So, yes, there's a chance. Am I super confident? The Sixers are still a very good team. The Sixers have depth. The Sixers are a playoff contending team. It's tough, but 2.5. Vegas is saying we're pretty damn close. So we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, we're definitely going to need to hit our free throws in this game. I will be curious to see after this game tonight how much free throws come into play and if we're able to bounce back shooting-wise.
I mean, this is a gut check game. You get embarrassed at home against a Grizzlies team you should have beat. Now you get a Philly team without Maxey and Embiid. That's still pretty – I think the Philly team without Maxey and Embiid is still better than the Grizzlies team that we played yesterday. Much better.
100%.
But if you're the Nets, you got to dig deep and you got to say – do we really want a chance to salvage this season? Do we want a chance to get that 10th seed and have a shot at the play-in? Because if you don't, that's fine. But pack it in. Stop giving us fans hope. Stop saying, it bothers me, Nick, when they say the right things in the media and they say the right things in the press conference and they go out and they give a shit performance like last night. That bothers me.
I know. I mean, like you're saying, looking at the Sixers roster, Tobias Harris, Buddy Hield, Kyle Lowry, Batum, Paul Reed, Oubre. You just got guys who are like that solid 5 to 8 number on a team that are going to fill in. Whereas, like you're saying, the Grizzlies, I don't think anybody who played last night outside of a couple, you'd put on the Clippers, you put on the Warriors to be those 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. So, yeah, you're right, Spen. The Sixers are deeper than us. They still have a lot of talent. With Embiid and Maxey, they're a top 4 team in the NBA. Without them, still could beat us. Still might beat us. Still, yeah.
So real quick, Nick, I did want to cover the Hawks wins because it wasn't all bad for the Brooklyn Nets. For the Brooklyn Nets in the last 5 or 6 days, we had 2 huge wins against the 10th place Hawks, 124-97, and then we beat them again 114-102. Cam Johnson was really solid in both these games. 29 points in the first win for Cam Johnson. He followed it up with 23 points in the second win. Mikal Bridges, 15 points in the first win. He wasn't needed, but then he followed it up with 38 points in that second win. And then I got to give Dennis Schroeder some credit. He's been a serviceable point guard for Brooklyn. He had Schroeder had 23 points and 7 assists and 8 rebounds in that first win. And then in that second win, he had 14 points and 8 assists. And, you had some extra contributions from Claxton and DFS in that game. And obviously, McHale was close to 40. But Schroeder is a key piece on this team. He's shown some chemistry with Claxton. He picks and chooses his moments to attack. If I'm going to give Sean Marks any credit for anything, I'm glad that he moved Dinwiddie for Schroeder. I would have loved to see DeJounte Murray in here instead. But from what I've heard, actually, if you listen to the episode last week with CJ Holmes kind of pointed out that DeJounte Murray was never a realistic option for Brooklyn. He thinks a lot of those rumors were just sort of media hoopla. So it kind of sounds like Dennis Schroeder might have been our best option in moving Spencer Dinwiddie. I like what I've seen from him so far. He does have a toughness and sort of this, come at me attitude that I wish more of the Nets players had.
I feel you on that. I think when you have a guy like Schroeder, he could be a great what would you say Schroeder is right now? 6 or 7 on the team? But in terms of go-to guy, I mean,
I would say he's right now. He's probably the 4th. I would say it's McHale, it's Cam Johnson, it's Lonnie Walker with the healthy guys because Cam Thomas is out. He's not playing. So right now it's McHale, it's Cam Johnson, it's Lonnie Walker, and then I would say Dennis Schroeder is your 4th go-to option.
Right. So I hear my point being, I like Schroeder. I like that we got Schroeder. He fills in a good gap. He's not going to be the guy like DeJounte Murray, who's the 2 on the team after Trae Young. But what I think Schroeder does really well is open us up to a position to bring in another star, because then I almost feel Schroeder is a better complement than most other players would be. So if you're looking at this Atlanta Hawks team, you have Trae Young, you have DeJounte Murray, you have DeAndre Hunter, who I like a lot, but you're kind of looking at the most like mid-tier guys, and even their star power after Trae Young, I wouldn't even call DeJounte Murray that big of a star. So to me, I'm not even bummed about that. That's not even something that I wish happened for the Nets. If you look at the Hawks right now, putting an amazing guard along with Trae Young isn't really solving the problem of the Hawks. They need way more weapons than that. They're always kind of this 9th, 10th seeded team. But just to go overarching in these last 2 games against the Hawks, they didn't have Trae Young, right? So I'm taking these wins with a grain of salt. We're not playing the Hawks at full throttle. But from a literal trying to make the playoff standpoint, I'm pumped we won the last 2 games because the Hawks are the only team in front of us right now, stopping us from getting into that 10th play-in position, right? Like we said before, Hawks are 2.5 games up. These are both must wins. And for the Hawks, really helpful to build up losses for them. So we kind of get double trouble winning those 2 games. I don't think these games were anything special other than inching closer. I think we saw some good performances. That 38-point performance from Bridges was amazing, fantastic. But if I'm looking at who we need to beat, it's a team like the Sixers tonight, even who are hurt. Hawks does it a little bit, then losing to the Grizzlies pulls that right back. So I like having Schroeder. To go back to your original point, I'm not bummed about not having Murray, but these wins to me don't prove anything other than we're somewhat staying kind of in the playoff contention.
I do want to point out, and I briefly touched upon it, but I want to give the guy his credit. I've been very critical of Cam Johnson for the majority of this season. I think most Nets fans have. He's underwhelmed for the most part. Since the All-Star break, he has really found his stroke. He's shown a resurgence in his play. And these 2 games against the Hawks, I mean, were huge. 29 points in the first win, 23 points in the second win. He's shooting the 3 well. Yes, he didn't play as well against Memphis, and he still does. He still makes some mental mistakes here and there that I don't think a player of his caliber should be making. Whenever he doesn't have a great package going to the rim. So a lot of times when he goes to the rim, he gets swatted, he gets rejected, he gets bodied, and it's not like he's the strongest dude in the world either. So there are obviously areas in his game that can improve. But with McHale struggling as of late, with no Cam Thomas, Lonnie Walker comes off the bench. He's been on a minutes restriction. Schroeder's a solid player, but Schroeder's not going to put up 20, 25 a night. I do want to give Cam Johnson credit for stepping up and playing much better than he's played for the majority of this season.
I agree. I was out on Cam Johnson at the beginning of the season, and I was hyped about Cam Johnson last year because I really liked what he did in Phoenix. I really thought he had promise. I think it's also hard to put someone in that position we put Cam Johnson in, from going to being a real supporting cast member to just jumping into that kind of number 2, number 3 position. That's a tough thing to do. Hey man, double your shot volume and shoot just as efficiently as you were in Phoenix. So I'll cut him some slack, but it does feel like he's starting to step into his own, which is super exciting to see. And I just want to address one comment from Ian talking about whether or not it was Dinwiddie or Bridges being the negative influence on the team. Obviously, Dinwiddie's gone now. I don't think Dinwiddie was ever happy when he came back to the Nets, but I do want to point out, if you saw that tweet, that Twitter post Spencer was just talking about before, of Bridges seemingly blatantly ignoring the fist bump from Kevin Ali, you could kind of maybe point that finger at Bridges and wonder if he is that negative influence. But yes, Ben, very excited to see what Cam Johnson does going forward. Do you think he has a lot of promise? But I think it's just a matter of consistency.
Shout out to Spencer Dinwiddie. He's been really great with the Lakers so far.
Man, I love Dinwiddie. I love Dinwiddie when he was on the Nets years ago before his second stint. Then it just kind of all fell through for him. I almost wish he never came back, because him coming back only decreased my affinity for Spencer Dinwiddie. He didn't want to be there. He had one of the worst field goal percentages in the league when he came back for his second stint with the Nets. And it just was such a negative experience having him there. And clearly he didn't want to be there. So I wish I just had that vision in my head of, man, Dinwiddie was fun back in the day in the bubble when he was draining threes during COVID and just being such a fun player, such a bright light on such a dark Nets team at the time. So hate to see it. I still wish Dinwiddie the best. I still love the fucking 70s look he's got going, but yeah, not great for a former Nets player again.
All right, Nick, we have a little bit of a Ben Simmons update. So Ben Simmons they've been labeling him day to day, but if you pay attention, I don't think he's getting back on the court anytime soon. Recently, he's been dealing with nerve impingement. It's the same nerve impingement he dealt with earlier in the year. And if you're familiar with herniating your back, it's something that my wife went through. She had surgery. Nerve impingement is terrible. It's basically something in your back is pushing down on the nerve, and it causes pain in different parts of your body. That's an extremely casual, non-medical way to describe it, but it's hard to walk, let alone play basketball. So if he's dealing with nerve pain and nerve impingement, it does not look good. And Bernie Lee, his agent, who's been very vocal throughout this process, he's been telling Nets fans to be patient. Ben Simmons is going to come back. He's going to solve the Nets' problems. These are things that his agent said. Well, his agent changed his tone a little bit, Nick. And basically, I didn't read the whole article, but in an article, Bernie Lee said the following about Ben Simmons. We continue to try and find non-surgical options to allow Ben to move forward on a permanent basis. And that's where this is my responsibility, and I'm the one to blame. So pretty glaring. He's kind of saying like, hey, yeah, Ben Simmons can probably use another back surgery. But I've been trying, along with the medical team, we've been trying to avoid that. Therefore, this consistent nerve pain, nerve impingement has been popping back up, and there's really nothing we can do. And guess what, guys? I'm the one to blame. Okay, sure, I guess. He's the one getting paid. He's the one who's only played 15 out of almost 60 games on the year.
Then do the surgery. I don't understand. Do the surgery. If he's got to be out for another season, fine. We're not in a position to win anything. He's not playing anyway. Then do the damn surgery. They're sitting in limbo, and he comes back and then hurts, and then comes back and gets hurt, and comes back and gets hurt. I'm not going to sit here and say that's bullshit, because I don't believe they would just lie and put out false medical reports or whatever it is, but then make a decision. And it also concerns me with this Brooklyn Nets medical staff that might need a revamp, because what happened to Joe Harris? Didn't they mess up his first ankle diagnosis, kind of tweak something in the surgery? He ended up being out for a lot more months than he should have. And now it seems like, for being an NBA player worth an NBA team worth billions of dollars, you can't figure out the right step to get somebody, the surgery or the healing or the attention they need to get back on the court. Something is starting to get a little fishy to me in this Nets medical staff, within this Nets medical staff. And I don't know what to believe, but if you're debating whether or not you're trying to do surgery that he might need, I would say just do it. There's nothing right now Simmons is needed for on the floor. Get it over with.
Yeah, I'm with you. Something
Trust the
smells
process.
fishy.
Trust the process.
Something smells fishy, and it's not the trout in the Brooklyn River. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if there are trout in the Brooklyn River.
I don't know, but I want to believe that this is all true and he's really struggling physically, as opposed to people spreading those rumors of it being a mental block and him always being afraid to play. I'd like to believe, not that I want him to be hurt, but I'd like to believe this is legit and that there is a solution, because a problem without a solution is a cancer to the team. But if you could figure out something to do and even just step in the right direction, you give us something to look forward to. You give us a tiny bit of hope. And I think as a Brooklyn Nets fan, all we need right now is a glimmer of hope in a very dooming season.
So a few things. Number one, because I experienced what my wife went through with her back surgery, I don't think it's mental with Ben Simmons. I think it's 100% been because of pain. So I think people who point to the mental parts of it, like, yeah, not playing and getting criticized and getting, negative feedback from thousands of fans, that can't be good for your mental health. But I don't think that Ben Simmons has not been playing basketball because of mental hurdles. I do believe it's really been physical. I do. And there's also a mental part of that.
I just want to say, though,
yeah,
I agree, but I just want to add, I do think that your wife was faking the injury and it was completely
you're such a dick. All right, real quick. Day'Ron Sharpe is now listed out for the game tonight. He got hurt yesterday. So him, Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas are all not playing. Lonnie Walker is questionable. If he can't go, that leaves a very hobbled Nets team against a Philadelphia Sixers team who's, they're missing their two best players, but you mentioned they have a lot of guys, a lot of other guys like Tobias Harris, like DeAnthony Melton, I believe is still on the team. Philly has some heads that absolutely could. And I want to look up their roster because I don't know who's on Philadelphia anymore. Kyle Lowry's on the team, Kelly Oubre Jr., Tobias Harris, Buddy Hield. I don't even think DeAnthony Melton's on the team. I think they might have moved him. Real quick. Yeah, I'm looking now. Oh, no, I think he's still on the team. Ian Cart writes, physical pain will definitely mess with your mental process. 100% agree, Ian. I do. I just don't think it was 100% mental, nothing physical. And do you think Clax will be re-signed is another question by Ian Cart. Too early to tell. I want to see how the season plays out. I want to see how he finishes the year. I just don't know. That's a tough question. And then, Nick, my final question for you, and we can wrap up after this. Do you have faith that Ben Simmons will play in the NBA again consistently, or do you think that he might never be able to get past these injuries? And let me just tell you his age. Ben Simmons
He's got to be 27.
He's 27 years old. It's a tough question. I was thinking about this today because every other week is a bad update with him. And you're right. At some point, if he needs surgery, he needs surgery. But then he's out another year. You understand that? You don't get surgery and come back in 4 months. So I don't know.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? Andrew Luck. It's kind of an Andrew Luck situation with the Colts, where Andrew Luck came out and for 3 or 4 years in the NFL was one of, if not the best quarterback in the league. And just injury after injury after injury, he just felt, I'm not even having fun anymore. This isn't even worth pushing through. I don't think I'm ever going to be fully where I was. I'm going to retire at 27, 28 and travel the world. And he had enough money to do so. Simmons has been more than financially compensated for his time in the NBA. Almost controversially so, given the controversy and the mental challenges and the physical challenges. And he's still on such a high-paying contract. So I don't think Simmons will ever get back to where he was. Could I see him in 3 or 4 years bouncing around as kind of a journeyman from team to team, almost like a Jeff Green, provide a different style of play, but providing a nice little lift off the bench. He plays good defense. He rebounds. He does a little bit of everything. He gets the 7-7-7 stat line. But to answer your question, I don't have faith in Ben coming back to full form, and I don't know if he'll ever play more than 40 to 50 games in a season. I agree with Ian. He'll stick around to get the money if he needs to. And I'm a huge Ben Simmons fan too. All I want is for him to be healthy, because when he came to the Nets, I was pumped. I was one of the delusional fans who thought his stint at the end in Philadelphia was just a phase, and that as soon as he got to Brooklyn, he was going to be back to his normal self and bounce right back into playing amazing basketball, all-star level basketball, triple-double level basketball, and that just never happened. And the more I've stuck around, the less I've had faith in him, to a point where, if I'm being honest with you, Spen, I don't even really think of him as being on the team the past 2 seasons. Like, when I look at the roster and I think of who's out, Cam Thomas is out right now. Ben Simmons isn't really out because he was never really in, right? I don't even think of him as a player who we're waiting on, because we've been waiting for so long. It's like the boy who cried wolf, like the Ben who cried basketball player. So, no, my faith is extremely low, but maybe that 1 ounce of me, that 1%, is hoping for a miracle, because if he's even 70% of the player he was in his prime in Philly, we could really use that right now.
Ben Simmons has played 25% of games this season. And what's difficult to comprehend for Nets fans is he was supposed to be a huge part of what the Nets were trying to do this year. A lot of people thought that, some frustrations from the players with Jacques Vaughn was that because Jacques Vaughn's system was predicated around a player like Ben Simmons. So when Ben Simmons didn't play 75% of the time, the result is you're going to lose a lot of basketball games when you bet on a system built around a guy that isn't there. So it's tough. It's been tough for Ben. It's been tough for Nets fans, but I give you credit having a little bit of faith that he might be able to come back eventually. Right now, I don't see it. And that's because of what I went through with my wife, who you claim to be faking her injury. All right. We're going to wrap up the show.
Kidding.
Yeah. Wait till she hears that. Guess who's not going to sit next to you at the next Passover dinner. All right. I want to give a quick shout out to Ian Cart. Thank you for commenting and giving us questions during the show. We appreciate you joining us. You're always welcome here, Ian, and we appreciate you. Shout out to Bud Light. Nick, did you finish your beer?
I got like 2 sips left.
I got a few sips left. Shout out to Bud Light. It's the only beer in the fridge. Make it a Bud Light. Unofficial sponsor of Fireside Nets for this week. And hopefully the Nets get a win. They move to 25-37. They get a little bit closer to that play-in. If not, I don't know. We're running out of games, guys. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have about 20 games left. So, you got to close out strong. But thanks to everyone for listening. Nick, any final words for the listeners?
Keep your head up. There will be brighter days. And go Bud Light.
Keep your head up. Keep your balls low.
When you don't know where to go Bud Light.
Go Bud Light. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Catch you on the Fireside.